Ladies and gentlemen, in life, we are all led in many directions, and often we follow others. The title of today's reflection, Where Her Heart Led, He Followed, prompts us to consider not only the dynamics of relationships, but also the Stoic principles that guide us in such choices. At the core of Stoic philosophy is the understanding that we are not the masters of external events. The only thing we can truly control is our response. In the case of following another, we may find ourselves moving along a path that another person sets before us. But Stoicism teaches us that this path, while external, should never define who we are. It is not the direction of the heart we follow, but the rationality with which we follow it. In Stoic philosophy, a central tenet, it is the understanding that external events and the actions of others are beyond our control. This includes both the situations we find ourselves in and the people we interact with. According to the Stoics, we cannot control where others lead us, nor can we control their desires, actions, or decisions. We cannot dictate the way the world unfolds, nor can we manipulate the course of another person's path. The Stoic principle is grounded in the distinction between what is up to us and what is not. Everything that happens outside of our own thoughts, judgments, and actions falls under the category of the externals, things beyond our control. The only thing we can truly control is how we respond to those external influences. This understanding of the world's uncontrollable nature can be liberating. It allows us to release the false burden of trying to control what we cannot, and it shifts the focus to cultivating mastery over our own internal world. The Stoics argue that peace of mind comes not from controlling the external world or other people, but from controlling how we react to them. What is within our power and what is beyond our control. This distinction is key in Stoic thought. When we speak of following another, whether in a personal relationship, a career, or simply in life, it is crucial to understand that following is not an act of blind submission, but rather an act of conscious choice. If another person's heart or actions lead us in a certain direction, the Stoic response is to assess whether the path is one that aligns with our rational understanding and ethical values. For the Stoic, it's not the fact of following that matters, but how we approach it. The Stoics urge us to ensure that our reactions to external events, including the direction others lead us in, are informed by wisdom and personal judgment. Consider a situation in which someone you care about leads you in a direction that appears to be based on their desires, passions, or whims. From a Stoic perspective, it's not the external event, their action or decision, that causes disturbance, but our internal judgment of it. If we view their actions as threatening or troubling, we may react with frustration, anxiety, or anger. But the Stoic response would be to question why we feel this way. Is it because we are attaching our own happiness or peace to their actions? Is it because we feel that we are losing control, when in fact, the control was never ours in the first place? A Stoic would challenge us to return to the fundamental realization, I cannot control others, but I can control how I respond. In this way, the Stoics teach us to approach the actions of others and the paths they lead us down with a level of detachment. This is not detachment in the sense of being indifferent to others, but in the sense of recognizing that others' choices cannot dictate our inner peace. The Stoic accepts that external events, whether a loved one leading us in a particular direction, a societal trend, or a personal setback, are not inherently good or bad. What matters is our perception and response to them. We can choose to remain rational and clear-headed, understanding that our peace is not contingent on external circumstances. Moreover, following another's lead does not mean surrendering our ability to reason. The Stoic believes that each person is responsible for their own judgment and must always act in accordance with their reasoned understanding of what is virtuous. If you choose to follow another, it should not be out of emotional compulsion, but after careful reflection. Is the direction they lead you toward virtuous? Does it align with your own values and principles? The Stoic path is one of reasoned action, not impulsive reactions. Thus, the Stoic perspective on following others offers a path of wisdom. While we cannot control where others lead us, we can control how we engage with that journey. We can choose to follow thoughtfully, to act with virtue, and to ensure that, regardless of where others lead us, our responses will remain grounded in rational judgment, emotional resilience, and inner peace. This is the Stoic art of living, one where we understand that external events, including the actions of others, are temporary and beyond our control, but our internal response to them remains entirely within our power. In Stoic philosophy, emotional resilience is a cornerstone of personal development. Emotions, by their nature, are powerful forces within us, often arising spontaneously in response to external events. They can range from joy and love to anger, fear, and sorrow. Stoicism, however, teaches that while emotions themselves are not inherently bad, it is how we allow them to influence our actions that determines our moral character and inner peace. According to Stoics, emotions must not be allowed to govern us. Instead, we must develop the capacity to master them, ensuring that they do not lead us into rash or irrational decisions. One of the central ideas in Stoic thought is the recognition that we do not control the events that trigger emotions, but we do control how we respond to those emotions. For instance, if someone we love leads us down a certain path, perhaps one that may cause us discomfort or confusion, our initial emotional response might be one of distress, frustration, or even anxiety. However, it is not the external situation itself that causes this emotional turmoil. Rather, it is our judgment and interpretation of the situation. In the eyes of the Stoics, the emotional reaction is the result of an internal process of value judgment. When we allow emotions to drive us, we relinquish control over our reasoning and act on impulses that are not in line with our rationality or values. Emotional resilience, in this sense, is the ability to recognize an emotional response as it arises, without allowing it to dictate our actions. This means that when someone we care about leads us in a particular direction, we can experience emotions like fear or uncertainty, but we do not have to let those emotions drive us into impulsive or irrational choices. Instead, we can pause, reflect, and choose to act in a way that is consistent with our higher principles. For the Stoic, true emotional resilience is not the absence of feeling, but the ability to maintain control over how we react to our feelings. Take, for example, a relationship where one partner might be emotionally driven to lead the other down a particular path. If that path is one that causes distress or discomfort, the typical emotional response might be one of resistance or resentment. However, the Stoic would not suppress or deny these feelings. Instead, they would seek to understand them. What is the source of this discomfort? Is it an irrational fear of loss, a desire to control the situation, or perhaps a misunderstanding of the path ahead? By reflecting on these questions, the Stoic does not allow the emotion to dominate, but instead uses rationality to determine the most virtuous course of action. This process of emotional mastery also involves a critical distinction between what is within our control and what is not. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control the actions or desires of others, nor can we control the unpredictable nature of the world. What we can control is our own response. When emotions such as anger or fear arise due to the actions of someone else, the Stoic focuses on understanding that these reactions are not the fault of the external event. Rather, they are an opportunity for self-reflection. How we respond is the true test of our character and emotional resilience. Furthermore, emotional resilience is closely tied to the Stoic idea of apatheia*, which refers to a state of being free from irrational passion or disturbance. This does not mean being indifferent or cold-hearted. Rather, it refers to the ability to experience emotions without being overwhelmed by them. A Stoic individual aims to cultivate a calm and steady mind, capable of engaging with life's challenges without being swept away by the emotional tides. In practice, this means that when we are led down a path, whether by love, by desire, or by external events, we maintain a centered sense of self, grounded in our values and reason. Ultimately, emotional resilience, as understood by the Stoics, allows us to navigate relationships and life's uncertainties without losing our inner peace. It empowers us to experience emotions fully, yet never to be ruled by them. In following another's lead, it's not about suppressing or ignoring our feelings, but about recognizing that our responses are a matter of choice. We have the power to remain calm, rational, and true to our principles, regardless of the emotional turbulence that may arise. Through emotional resilience, we regain control over ourselves, ensuring that our actions, even in the face of strong emotions, reflect our deepest wisdom and virtue. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies the concept of virtue. For Stoics, virtue is the only true good, and it is the guiding principle that governs all rational action. Virtue, in Stoic thought, encompasses four cardinal qualities: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues are not mere ideals or abstract concepts, but are practical and essential for living a good and meaningful life. They are the foundation for making choices that align with reason and the greater good, regardless of the external circumstances that may arise. In the context of relationships, including when one chooses to follow another, these virtues become the yardstick by which the Stoic measures the worthiness of that path. When we speak of following another, we must first ask ourselves, is this decision in alignment with virtue? The Stoic would argue that it is not enough simply to follow someone out of affection, desire, or the need for approval. Following must be grounded in rational thought and guided by the pursuit of virtue. For instance, when one partner leads the other in a particular direction, it is crucial to consider whether that direction is conducive to personal growth, justice, and the flourishing of both individuals involved. Wisdom, the first of the cardinal virtues, calls for the application of rational judgment in this decision-making process. A wise person does not act impulsively or without thoughtful consideration of the consequences. Moreover, wisdom involves understanding the nature of the path one is being led down. If another person's lead conflicts with one's sense of justice or personal integrity, the Stoic would advise caution. Justice, another cardinal virtue, requires that we treat others with fairness and respect, and it compels us to make decisions that are equitable and considerate of the well-being of all parties involved. In the case of following someone, this means ensuring that the decision is not made out of blind allegiance or a desire to avoid conflict, but rather from a place of understanding what is truly just for both individuals in the relationship. The Stoic also recognizes that courage is necessary when following another, especially when the path ahead is uncertain or fraught with potential difficulty. Courage does not merely mean the absence of fear, but rather the willingness to face challenges with resolve, to stand firm in one's values even when the outcome is unknown. If following another requires confronting uncomfortable truths or facing the possibility of personal sacrifice, the Stoic would emphasize that it is courage that allows us to proceed with strength and dignity. Courage ensures that our actions are not motivated by weakness or fear, but by a firm commitment to what is right. In relationships, the pursuit of temperance is equally important. Temperance is the practice of self-control and moderation, avoiding excess in our desires and emotions. It is easy to be swept away by the intensity of love or attachment, and to follow someone without considering whether it is in our best interest or aligned with virtue. Temperance helps the Stoic maintain balance, ensuring that we do not follow another out of fleeting desires, impulsive attraction, or the need to please. Instead, we must remain measured in our actions, making sure that our decisions are guided by reason and not by uncontrolled passions or short-term gratification. Ultimately, the Stoic approach to following another is rooted in a deep commitment to virtue. It is about more than simply supporting or admiring someone else. It is about ensuring that the path we follow leads to a greater understanding of ourselves and the world around us, and that it contributes to the cultivation of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These virtues are not just lofty ideals. They are practical tools that allow us to navigate relationships, life's challenges, and our own emotions with integrity and self-respect. Whether we are following another out of love, respect, or admiration, the Stoic approach demands that we do so with clarity, purpose, and an unwavering commitment to living a virtuous life. In this way, the Stoic would remind us that following another's lead is not a passive act, but one that should always be examined through the lens of virtue. By doing so, we ensure that we are not merely followers, but active participants in the creation of a life that is meaningful, virtuous, and aligned with reason. Every decision, every step, should reflect a deeper understanding of what is truly good, both for ourselves and for those we choose to walk alongside. In Stoic philosophy, self-reflection and autonomy are central to living a life of virtue and wisdom. The Stoics believe that individuals should be fully aware of their thoughts, emotions, and actions, constantly examining their beliefs and behaviors to ensure they align with reason and the pursuit of the greater good. Self-awareness is not simply a passive state. It is an active practice that requires ongoing effort to observe, understand, and refine one's internal world. Autonomy, in the Stoic sense, goes beyond the mere act of making decisions. It involves cultivating the ability to think critically, independently, and with clarity, free from the external pressures and influences that might cloud our judgment. When considering the idea of following another, the Stoic perspective places significant emphasis on maintaining autonomy. Following someone else's lead should never mean abandoning one's own judgment or values. In relationships, whether personal or professional, it is vital that we retain the ability to assess the situation with reason and make decisions that reflect our personal beliefs and goals. The Stoic principle of autonomy suggests that while we may choose to follow another person, this decision must come from a place of careful self-reflection, where we weigh the consequences of that choice in light of our own ethical compass and the greater good. Self-reflection in this context means asking oneself deep, probing questions. Am I following this person because it aligns with my own values, or am I simply influenced by their desires, emotions, or circumstances? Does following this path support my long-term goals and personal growth, or is it a temporary decision based on immediate comfort or desire? The Stoic emphasizes that it is not enough to follow someone simply because we trust them, love them, or are emotionally attached to them. True autonomy is about making decisions based on our own rational understanding, not on the external pressures that others might exert, whether knowingly or unknowingly. This idea of maintaining autonomy even while following another is rooted in the Stoic concept of inner freedom. To the Stoic, true freedom is not the ability to act on every impulse or desire, but the capacity to live in accordance with one's rational nature, free from the irrational influences of emotions, external expectations, or fleeting impulses. Autonomy, in this sense, is about maintaining control over one's internal world, ensuring that our responses to external situations are chosen, not merely reactive. If we blindly follow someone without considering the impact of that decision on our values or autonomy, we risk sacrificing our own ability to think and act with clarity and reason. Self-reflection also plays a crucial role in the process of personal growth and moral development. Stoics believe that the path to virtue is a continuous journey of self-examination, learning from our experiences, and constantly striving to be better. When we follow someone, it is important to regularly assess whether that path continues to align with our evolving understanding of what is virtuous. It is not enough to make a decision once and then relinquish our responsibility to reflect on it. The Stoic sees each moment as an opportunity to refine one's thoughts, actions, and choices. For example, if we follow a leader or partner who encourages us to pursue a particular course, the Stoic practice of self-reflection would involve regularly checking in with ourselves. Is this path still consistent with my values? Am I growing in wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance as I walk alongside this person? Or have I compromised my own principles in order to follow someone else's desires or needs? This process of ongoing self-reflection ensures that we do not lose sight of who we are or what we stand for, even while walking alongside others. Autonomy also entails the responsibility to act in accordance with one's own moral reasoning, especially when following someone might conflict with one's principles. The Stoic would caution that if following another's lead requires us to abandon our values or act against our better judgment, then true autonomy has been compromised. In such instances, it is not only our right but our duty to step back and make a conscious decision to either choose a different path or assert our own direction, even if it means going against the desires of others. Ultimately, the Stoic understanding of self-reflection and autonomy empowers individuals to live with intention and purpose. To follow another should not be a passive act of submission, but an active, thoughtful decision rooted in clarity, reason, and moral integrity. It is the combination of self-awareness and autonomy that ensures we walk through life with purpose and alignment, making choices that reflect our highest values and greatest potential, and never allowing ourselves to be swept along by the desires, whims, or expectations of others. By maintaining our autonomy and engaging in regular self-reflection, we are better able to navigate the complexities of relationships and life, consistently choosing the path that leads us toward wisdom, virtue, and a life well lived. In Stoic philosophy, the relationship between fate and free will is one of the most profound and essential aspects of understanding how we engage with the world. The Stoics acknowledge that there are many things in life over which we have no control. Fate, destiny, or external circumstances are often beyond our influence. However, the Stoics also emphasize that while we cannot control these external events, we always have control over how we respond to them. This dual recognition of the inevitability of fate and the freedom of choice forms a core principle of Stoic thought. In the context of following someone, this principle becomes particularly relevant. When we consider the idea of following another's lead, whether in love, work, or in a more general sense, the Stoic perspective teaches that this decision must be made with a clear understanding of the balance between what is outside of our control, fate, and what remains within our control, our responses and actions. For instance, in any relationship, one partner might take the lead in making certain decisions, perhaps suggesting a particular path or direction to follow. The Stoic recognizes that this is an external event, one that is beyond our control. The other person's desires, plans, and decisions may influence our own course, but we have the power to choose how to respond. The Stoic distinction between what is up to us and what is not is crucial here. Following someone else's lead can be seen as an example of fate, something we are encountering in the present moment. The person we care for may ask us to go in a particular direction, and this is their choice. However, while their choice is outside our control, how we respond to that request is entirely within our control. In this sense, Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control the desires, plans, or actions of others, we can choose whether or not to follow them, and if we do choose to follow, we can do so in a manner that is consistent with our own values and reasoning. The Stoics also recognize that life is filled with uncertainty, and fate often presents us with challenges or hardships that we cannot anticipate or avoid. This is why they emphasize the importance of cultivating an inner strength that is not dependent on external circumstances. When following another, there may be moments where the path ahead is unclear or difficult, and we might be unsure of the consequences. However, it is in these moments that Stoic wisdom advises us to embrace the uncertainty, recognizing that while we cannot predict the future, we can control our responses. Even if the path is fraught with difficulty, we retain the power to navigate it with integrity, wisdom, and virtue. Moreover, the concept of fate in Stoicism does not mean passivity or resignation to whatever comes our way. It is not about accepting events without thought or action, but rather accepting that there are things beyond our control and focusing our energy on those things we can influence. In the case of following another, it means understanding that while we may not be able to control the decisions that others make, we can control how we engage with them. If their path aligns with our values and reasoning, then following them may be a choice made freely and consciously. If not, we retain the ability to make our own decisions, choosing a course of action that aligns with our own sense of what is virtuous. In following someone, it is important to realize that our decision to do so should not be an act of blind obedience or submission to fate. Rather, it should be a conscious choice made in alignment with our understanding of what is just and virtuous. The Stoic sees the ability to choose in the face of external influences as the ultimate expression of freedom. Even in situations where we feel we are being led by another, the Stoic insists that we always retain the power to choose how we respond, and that this choice is a reflection of our character and moral reasoning. In this way, the Stoic approach to fate and free will reminds us that while we cannot control the forces of destiny or the actions of others, we do have the power to shape how we engage with those forces. To follow someone else's lead is not an act of surrendering our agency, but a decision made with full awareness, reflection, and rationality. We must always ask ourselves whether the path we are choosing, whether it is one that others have set before us or one that we are creating for ourselves, is in alignment with our highest values and principles. In this way, Stoicism teaches us that even in a world of uncertainty and fate, we can live lives of freedom, virtue, and purpose. In Stoic philosophy, the ultimate goal of life is to cultivate a sense of peace and contentment that is independent of external circumstances. The Stoics believe that happiness is not found in the fleeting pleasures or possessions of the material world, but rather in the cultivation of an inner state of virtue, wisdom, and self-discipline. This inner peace is achieved through an understanding of what is truly important, and through a commitment to acting in accordance with reason, regardless of what external events may arise. This emphasis on inner peace and contentment is especially important when we consider the idea of following another, as it teaches us to align our actions with our values, rather than being swept away by external forces, emotions, or desires. When we follow another, we may be influenced by their desires, preferences, or actions. The Stoic response to this is to examine whether this external influence is truly contributing to our own well-being and peace of mind. If we allow ourselves to be led by another without critical reflection, we risk being swayed by external circumstances that may lead us away from our true purpose. In Stoic thought, it is crucial to maintain an awareness of what truly brings us happiness and fulfillment. Happiness, for the Stoic, is not dependent on external validation or the approval of others, but on the cultivation of a virtuous character and a rational understanding of what is within our control. When considering following another, the Stoic would urge us to reflect on whether this decision is in line with our own sense of purpose. Are we following someone out of a genuine desire to grow, learn, or contribute? Or are we following out of a desire for approval, security, or external rewards? If our reasons for following another are based on superficial desires or external validation, we may find ourselves sacrificing our peace of mind in pursuit of something fleeting or temporary. True contentment, according to the Stoics, comes from acting in accordance with our own rational understanding of what is good, rather than being influenced by external forces or desires that ultimately do not lead to lasting fulfillment. Additionally, the Stoic focus on inner peace calls for us to be mindful of the potential for external circumstances to disrupt our tranquility. If we follow someone who leads us down a path that causes anxiety, stress, or inner conflict, we are allowing external events to disturb our sense of peace. The Stoic approach would be to ask ourselves whether the path we are being led down is one that aligns with our own values, and whether it promotes our growth as virtuous individuals. If the path ahead is in conflict with our principles or leads to unnecessary disturbance, the Stoic would advise us to reassess whether this is a path worth following. Inner peace is not achieved by avoiding challenges or discomfort, but by ensuring that our actions and responses are rooted in reason and virtue, even when external circumstances may be difficult. In this context, the Stoic would emphasize the importance of cultivating emotional resilience, the ability to remain centered and composed regardless of external events. The ability to maintain peace of mind in the face of external challenges or the influence of others is a hallmark of Stoic practice. When following another, we are often exposed to their emotions, desires, and decisions. However, The Stoic approach teaches us that we are not bound by these external forces. While we may be influenced by the actions of others, we have the power to choose how we respond, ensuring that our responses are aligned with our own values and reason. The Stoic pursuit of inner peace also involves accepting that life is filled with uncertainty and change. We cannot control the actions of others, and we cannot predict the outcome of the paths we choose. However, the Stoic teaches us that we can control how we approach these uncertainties. Following someone, particularly when the future is unclear, requires the courage to face uncertainty with calm and composure, trusting in our own ability to navigate whatever challenges may arise. This acceptance of uncertainty, coupled with the commitment to act in accordance with virtue, allows us to maintain peace of mind regardless of external circumstances. Ultimately, the Stoic path to contentment involves living a life that is guided by reason, virtue, and self-reflection, rather than by external pressures or fleeting desires. When we follow another, we must ensure that our decision is rooted in our own rational understanding of what is good and virtuous, and not based on the pursuit of superficial rewards or the influence of others. By maintaining inner peace and a commitment to our values, we can navigate relationships and life's challenges with resilience and clarity, ensuring that our pursuit of happiness is grounded in lasting, meaningful principles rather than the transitory whims of external circumstances. In conclusion, the Stoic philosophy offers a profound and transformative approach to understanding relationships and the decisions we make when following others. By focusing on emotional resilience, virtue, self-reflection, autonomy, fate, and inner peace, the Stoics teach us how to navigate life's complexities with clarity, reason, and integrity. Each of these principles serves as a reminder that our choices, whether in relationships or other areas of life, must be grounded in our highest values, guided by wisdom, and consistent with our personal growth. When we follow another, the Stoic advises us not to lose sight of our own reason and virtue. We must approach such decisions with critical reflection, ensuring that we are not swayed by fleeting desires, external pressures, or emotional impulses. Instead, we are encouraged to choose paths that align with our principles, cultivating emotional resilience and self-awareness along the way. Even as we acknowledge the uncertainties of fate and external influences, we retain the power to shape our responses, and in doing so, we maintain our inner peace and sense of purpose. Ultimately, following another's lead is not about blind submission, but about making conscious, rational decisions that contribute to our growth as virtuous individuals. The Stoic path teaches us that true contentment comes not from the external world, but from within, from the steady cultivation of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. By embracing these teachings, we can navigate relationships and life's challenges with composure, ensuring that our decisions, whether to follow another or to choose our own path, are always aligned with the deeper wisdom that leads to a fulfilled and meaningful life.